All right, show me the money. NFL picks for week number 11 are here. Join me today, another great friend of the podcast. We talk usually about the golf, but the Colts are up on the jet schedule, so I figure we'll bring him in this week. Dan DeMartini is here. Dan, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm like one of the last Colt fans left. So, happy to come on and talk a little about them leading into this game, which, I wonder how you're feeling about it. I have very specific feelings about where the state of the franchise is. So, should be fun. But overall, doing pretty well.
Yeah, glad that you're doing pretty well here. And obviously, the much ballyhooed quarterback switch did not do much here. We saw the Colts again lose to the Bills on Sunday. So, what was your big takeaways from that performance that basically we'll talk about in a minute, sealed Joe Flacco's fate?
Yeah, this was really hard for multiple reasons. So, Joe Flacco's kind of proved that at this point in his career, he's not a guy who, when you're starting the game off with him and running a full game plan for him, there's not really much he can do. If you take away the deep ball, he's not willing to just take these small little dink and dunks. And when he does, I just feel like the speed of the guys that are rushing him is just overwhelming him. He was just getting swarmed and forcing passes that he shouldn't have. And I mean, the first pass of the game was a pick six, and that's like normally you'd want your quarterback to get in there, make a couple of easy throws, run the ball, do anything but throw a pick six on the first play at home when you've told your fan base we're ready, to win still now. So there were a lot of things that were going on. I think, Joe Flacco's performance over the last 2 weeks was pretty indicative of what we thought he was. Last year with the Browns, I think he was fighting to show he still belonged in the league, and he does. He's just purely a backup. He's not a starter. So the Colts trying to sell us on that was really ridiculous.
Yeah, and the quarterback situation is probably one of the more strange stories in the league this season here because obviously you had the whole thing with Andy Richardson 2 weeks ago when he's struggling and he says, I was tired. I took myself out for a play. They go to Flacco because they say he can help us win games. He loses 2 games, and then we find out on day of recording, Andy Richardson is back in the saddle as a starter here against the Jets. So the handling of the situation with the quarterbacks has been very strange and Indy.
So here's what I'll say. For the last few weeks on X, I have been part of the, free AR movement, where the fan base has been tweeting at Jim Irsay no matter what he does. Whether he's giving away tickets, talking about a charity organization, talking about his music or whatever it is, you just immediately reply to him, hashtag free AR. And we, as a fan base, I knew that they were not giving up. I know the national media was picking up on the whole thing, and you saw Adam Schefter post, oh, top 10 quarterbacks that have been benched by their teams historically never survive, blah, blah. Well, no, that is a very, very different situation. The Colts are horrible when it comes to handling the media side of things. Shane Steichen's press conference today is the perfect example of that. He explained that the last 2 weeks was truly just a benching so that Anthony can learn to properly prepare, properly sacrifice himself, and be the quarterback that they all expect him to be. He's 21 years old. I mean, that is a staggering figure for me, who still feels young, and he's 14 years younger than me. So let's give the kid a break. He obviously has some injury things he needs to work out. He has not played a ton of football. The fact that anybody was thinking that the Colts were just going to be done with him because he struggled through the first 6 games, it's just a ridiculous thing. Real Colt fans knew that AR was going to get another chance. I can prove that I was right about it because I offered a trade for him as soon as they benched him. And I thought maybe I could get a steal and steal him away from somebody. He's going to develop. He's going to be the quarterback of this team. The Colts should have just said, Anthony is being benched for disciplinary reasons. We're dealing with it internally. Joe Flacco will be the starter until we see things change. Okay. AR, he's a good kid, but clearly they are expecting more out of him as a professional. So That would have ended all of this nonsense. But they think they're doing the fan base and they think they're doing everybody like this, or they're doing themselves this great service by, making it wishy-washy. Joe gives us the best chance to win over Anthony. No, Joe Flacco doesn't give you the best chance to win. Anthony obviously does. The problem is you're too, whatever to say what you really want to say. I mean, I have been so frustrated watching these coaches' press conferences the last couple weeks because it is so painful to have them just have these stupid pre-scripted, sentences that come out of their mouths about, you know, we're looking for the next game and the future is, our starting quarterback for right now is Joe Flacco. He's his veteran leadership is the reason that he's going to help us win. It's all nonsense. It's just all nonsense. They don't even believe what they're saying, and none of the fans do. It's just I hate the fact that the Colts organization thinks the fan base is stupid enough to believe what they're saying. Just tell us the truth and move on. Anyway, I the other half of this is that as a fan, I am very excited. And so I will switch hats here. Um, and I will say now that Anthony is back, Um, I will wear my Colts hat again. I will proudly rep the horseshoe, at least for the rest of the season, because even if he's not the quarterback 3, 4 years from now, he needs to be properly developed. Let him go out, let him throw 30% completion percentages, whatever. Don't care. I just want to see what he can do.
I love the props. This is make good use of the video version of the podcast.
Hey, if you're watching the video version, you just got to see a hat switch.
Yes. That's a hat switch here. And now they get our my dysfunctional team on Sunday here. And a game that was originally scheduled for prime time here. The Colts get flexed in 2 weeks ago. They get flexed out after the Jet loss on Sunday, getting combined with the performance that Flacco had against the Vikings on the Sunday night game. It didn't really sell NBC on this game. So this is a spot here where I feel like this is a very telling situation for the Colts. I think the Jets are a lost cause. I think if the Colts are going to have any kind of year, they have to win this game.
Yeah, they were talking about what's left on the Colts schedule, and they talked about if they truly want to be that 7 seed and they want to do so, they have to beat the Jets and they have to beat the Broncos. The Dolphins are still, a game behind even the Colts. So, and the Colts have the tiebreaker over them. So, this is their season on Sunday. And to be perfectly honest, I'm actually a little worried about it. I think that if there's one piece of the Jet team right now that is still working, it is getting at the quarterback. Maybe not as successful as you guys were hoping, but I think everybody saw that highlight against Kyler Murray, and Anthony Richardson holds the ball a long time.
Yep.
So I am worried about what the Jets defensive line will do, but I mean, my question back to you is, have the Jets given up at this point?
I don't know with this team because I mean, you hear 3 weeks in a row we had the best week of practice in our lives, and they don't show it on the field.
Yeah, so I think my biggest question right now going into this game and why I'm having a hard time and why I truly don't know what's going to happen here is the Colts are the team that the narrative fits better. They're the ones that you would assume, okay, they're going to win this game, they're going to keep going on, and the Jets are just going to mail it in and start fresh next year. But what if the Jets go on a run here and maybe this Colt game and getting Richardson at home and having a young QB have to deal with exotic defensive packages and all sorts of blitz packages and all sorts of stuff. What if you guys come out and just win this game like 31-10? Like I can see that happening. I can also see the Colts winning 20-14. So I don't know. I really don't in my heart of hearts. I cannot tell you what's going to happen. It's either going to be a Jets blowout, holy crap win, and you guys are finally having a good Sunday night, or it's going to be a very close, Rodgers makes just the wrong play at the wrong time and Colts sneak out a win.
Yeah, speaking of the good Sunday night thing, I'll throw a fact out here. I think Jet fans may not have realized all the misery here, but I think it's interesting here. They have not had a win on a Sunday since week two.
Oof, that is pretty tough. Then again, the Colts only play Sunday at 1 o'clock. So, if we have any wins, they're at least on Sunday. But look, I used to complain all the time the Colts aren't prime time. Every time they've been in prime time over the last few years, they've embarrassed me. So, and nobody wants to watch them. So until they become an exciting offense again, they don't deserve to be there. We'll watch at 1 o'clock.
Yep. We'll watch at 1 o'clock and see what happens. We'll get to the pick, which is why you're here. My buddy Troy Moriello was here last week. He went 2-1 on the week. He had the Falcons laying 3.5 against the Saints, lost that game, did not realize that the poll was he back at the Saints as hashtag. So that one kind of cost him.
Mm.
He had the Eagles laying the 7 home against his Cowboys, called that one correctly. How's that the Steelers getting the 3 against the Commanders, end up winning that game outright. So 2-1 for Troy last week.
Yeah, no, it's a good week. I'm still amazed that the Steelers are disrespected the way they are. So getting 3 points, the Steelers are a tough team, and they're only getting better every week. I don't know if Najee's going to play this week, but um, they're tough. I would want to have to play them, in Pittsburgh in January, February.
Yeah, so that's his picks. I went 2-1 also with league. I was dead wrong on the Bears. I think I handled business the Patriots. I'm losing the game outright, so I don't cover that one. I nailed the Jets. I said there was no way the Jets are going to show up for this game and play well. They lose 31-6. I got the win there. And I also bet against the Giants last week, too. I said the Giants getting favored by 5 against Carolina was a bad idea. And I'm losing the game outright in overtime. So 2-1 for me, too.
Well, I mean, look, I cannot figure out the Giants. Every time I think, oh, okay, they're starting to piece something together, they come out and do what they do. So, good on you for knowing your own team. The Cardinals are a sneaky, decent team. They're still missing some pieces, but they have a lot of random talent, and Kyler Murray can still like get it done. So, I think has done a pretty good job as kind of, I guess, a second year coach now. So, um, yeah, the Cardinals could be sneaky, and they add the right pieces this offseason. The West is the West. They can still compete out there. I mean, the 49ers haven't run away with anything, and Seattle and LA are dealing with injuries. So good for the Cardinals.
Yes, it's also a very tight race on the year. The Challenger is 16-14. I'm 16-13-1. The push came back in week one from your team. So that's the only reason why it's still I have a half game lead here. But we'll get to the picks now for week number 11. Dan, as the guest, you can go first. So where are you going with pick number one?
Yeah, so as a Jacksonville native, I also and as a division rival, I definitely have gotten to see and hear a lot of Jaguars radio and news, and um, at this point of time, I think that a safe bet, although the Jags have played tough to this point, I think that the Lions are way too difficult an opponent, especially in Detroit, with Mac Jones playing and Trevor might be done for the year. I just don't think that they're going to be able to generate enough points to stay with the Lions. I think that 13 points is a crazy total to give up, but you're telling me just 2 touchdowns? The game could easily be 28-10 and I cover. So let's go Lions game one.
I like that one a lot. I mean, we saw what the Lions did to poor Tennessee a few weeks ago when they came into the building and they were tied at 14 and they scored the next like 35 points. I can see the same kind of thing happening here.
Yeah, I just think that the Jags are mailing it in. They started shipping off players, and I think they're the local news media down here. I was listening. Doug Peterson has said some things to the media that has insulted their intelligence also about not being able to understand. He's not going to go into their schemes or something because they just don't understand. I mean, he's not winning anybody over in this town anymore. So there's going to be some major changes coming to the Jags again.
All right, let's pick one. We're going to pick two.
Yeah, pick two. I'm gonna actually go. We were just talking about the NFC West. I'm gonna take the Rams. I know they lost to Miami, but they're still just getting themselves healthy. The Rams are the perfect example of a team who down the stretch might get red hot. They get all their pieces back. They have a great running game. They've got a veteran quarterback. They've got plenty of talent at wide receiver. So I'm going to take the Rams. I'm giving 5. The game is in New England, I believe, but I'm not concerned. I think that that New England game last week was a bit of a fluke and showing just how poor the Bears are, not really indicative of who the Patriots are. So I'm going to take the Rams and I'm going to give up 5.
Yeah, for me, I think it also helps you that the Patriots get the win last week against the Bears here. So it's not like they're due for one. And the Rams sort of in a desperate spot where they have to get this game. They want to have any legitimate wild card hope in the NFC. So I think I like the spot here.
Yeah, I'm looking at it and I know 5 points is a weird number, but I definitely I can see that game being, even if the Patriots play tough, is 20-7 a decent number? Is 17-7 a decent number? So I still think they can cover 5.
All right, so let's pick two. We're going to pick three.
Sure. So this last one is just because ever since the Colts went to Green Bay and I got to really watch how their defense plays and how that fan base operates, and the whole rivalry with Detroit and how tough the NFC North is. Um, I think this pick, I'm gonna take Green Bay. I'm gonna give up 6. But even if you fired everybody on the Bears coaching staff, I think they're so disoriented right now in terms of where's Caleb Williams' developments at, in terms of understanding how to read defenses, how to get rid of the ball. I mean, I thought I saw a stat. He's been sacked almost 40 times already this year, the most of any quarterback. I believe he got sacked 9 times last week, which is crazy. Um, so I mean, the Bears are just a mess. I think that Green Bay is going to come out and embarrass them, even at home in Chicago. So taking Green Bay to cover 6.
Yeah, I talked about this last week with the Bears, with Troy and I, and like I turned out my guess Russell Baxter was right on this one. They have not recovered from the Hail Mary play. They have looked completely lethargic since they got beat by the Hail Mary against the Commanders a few weeks ago. I think that run continues here.
I think there's something to be said for these games that um they can really, one play or one or two plays can really define your season. And I think the Bears have gone absolutely the wrong way ever since. And Caleb is I still think that he's worth the long-term investment if he can truly learn how to play in the NFL. The scrambling comes later. You know, you've got to stay scripted. The problem is the guy that's been scripting for him is was doing a horrible job. So he was trying to let Caleb be too much of the collegiate Caleb Williams. He needs to teach him how to be a professional. So, there's a lot of young quarterbacks they throw out there. They don't always stick. So some of them are gonna take time. I mean, you could argue also that CJ Stroud is regressing a bit if he's not putting up crazy numbers this year. Now I know his receivers have been hurt, but these are young guys, and we just expect the world of them because we've seen too many of these random one-offs. Um, I'm not giving up on Caleb Williams, but they got to bring in an offensive-minded coach.
All right, so your picks are on the board. I'm up now. Pick number one. I will go to the game of the week here. I'm going to take the Buffalo Bills, laying a 2.5 at home against the Chiefs here. And we've seen the Chiefs all year playing these one possession games. They seem to find these impossible ways to win, whether it's the toe from Isaiah Likely in week one, whether it's the missed PATs, whether it's the block field goals. Like at some point, the luck runs out. Like the luck runs out here. Buffalo very motivated after last year's playoff loss. They're much better against the Chiefs in the regular season here. I think they know it's their only shot to have a chance to get home field throughout the playoffs here. I think it's a game the Chiefs lose by a touchdown. I think Buffalo is ready to go here. Give me the Bills laying a 2.5 in the game of the year at this point.
It's a gutsy move. I give you a lot of credit for picking that game. I stayed away from that one, the Ravens game with Pittsburgh, and I stayed away from that Charger game with the Bengals because I cannot figure those teams out. The spreads are really tight. Good on you for going with it. Buffalo is definitely where my gut would be for sure, just because you think Kansas City is due for a loss, but man, hard to pick against them.
All right, let's pick one. Pick two. Going to one of those games you just mentioned here. I'm going to lay the 3 with the Ravens against Pittsburgh here. And I think, yes, Pittsburgh is 7-2. I think they are a very overrated 7-2 team. You look at who they've beaten. They have not beaten many good teams this year. You're not getting a ton done offensively. The Raven offense is a very explosive unit. It's very tough for Baltimore to be stopped. I know Pittsburgh has a great defense. If Baltimore will find its way, you got the picture report. You're stopping Derrick Henry. You're stopping the passing game. Can't take both away. I think this is a spot where the Ravens are favored on the road for a reason. I think they handled their business, win the game outright. So Ravens laying the 3 in the second pick of the week.
I kind of am feeling the opposite a little bit on this one. I like that you're, 3 points is obviously there, it's there for a reason. Um, I think the Pittsburgh defense, I know that Highsmith obviously had that horrible injury last week, but I just think that they're going to come up with something to contain Henry, and they're not afraid to get in and tackle. They're going to be so up for this game, right? Because this is their division rival. They're at home. I think Russell's going to be able to move the ball. I really do because this Raven defense is not showing anything special. So there's going to be I think it's going to be a game where the Steelers might get 10 points pretty quick. Um, the Ravens might come back late, but man, maybe I think Pittsburgh is going to eke one out.
All right, so that's pick number 2. Pick number 3. I'm going to our game. I'm taking your team getting 4 points against the Jets. And it's something I do not understand with the books. Like the Jets have been consistently favored over the last like 6, 7 weeks in almost every game. They've lost all but one. I think to me, you look at the Jet team, and I think the best way to describe the Jets right now is that this is a collection of individual actors opposed to a team where you look at the paper looks great. But the Jets in Madden, they're probably one of the best teams in the game. You watch the Jets in real life, they don't function well together. Their chemistry is off. You got Sauce Gardner sniping at fans and media on Twitter this week. You got all sorts of crazies going on here. And the Jets should not be favored over anybody at this point based on how they're playing. And 4 is a lot. As you said, I feel like this is trending closer to the Colts sneak out a close game they shouldn't win than the Jets blow it out. So give me the 4 points. And the Jets need to prove me wrong again. They have not done that yet this year.
I looking at this game on paper at the start of the year said, "Oh man, the Colts are going to get embarrassed at MetLife. Phillips is going to love this. The Jets are going to get just absolutely just the fan base going to be thrilled. They're going to maul them. This is, the Devontae's going to now have 100 yards." I was saying this to myself over the last few weeks. And then I start like out of the corner of my eye, I haven't been able to watch the Jets too much because we've been in very much the same windows. But like I keep saying to myself, I scratch my head every time, like, how are they not putting up more points? Are they hurt? Is Aaron Rodgers not playing? Like, what's going on? And I don't know. The Colts tend to beat teams they shouldn't and lose games to the teams like the Jaguars, like the Titans, like Green Bay with Malik Willis. They lose those kinds of games. So that's why I'm gonna potentially disagree with you on this one too, only because the Colts they don't win the games they're supposed to. They are supposed to beat the Jets on Sunday. They're supposed to. They're all healthy. Pittman's playing, Taylor's playing. The only guy that didn't practice today was Buckner because he bruised his foot last week. He's fine. He's gonna play. Everybody's gonna be out there and they're gonna lose. So I just if the Jets were 6-3, or sorry, wherever we're in week 11 now. So if they were wherever they were at, they had a winning record, reverse their wins and losses. Okay. I would say the Colts are going to win. But the fact that they're playing as poorly as they are, I think this time the Jets are going to win.
All right, agree to disagree. So to reset the picks of the week, Dan is laying the 5 with the Rams in New England against the Patriots, a must-win spot for LA. The Lions pulling out the big wood, laying the 13 against the Jaguars at home, and the Packers laying 6 in Chicago against the Bears. My picks, 2 of the biggest games of the week: the Bills laying 2.5 at home against the undefeated Chiefs, the Ravens laying 3 in Pittsburgh against the Steelers, and taking the Colts, getting 4 points against the New York Jets at MetLife Stadium. And, it's flexed out of prime time. Those are your picks for week 11 here on the podcast. And coming up next week on the podcast, we're going to be joined by a friend of mine, Bucks fan, Charlie Borges Jr. And the Bucks are an interesting spot here because coming off the bye, making Mike Evans back here. NFC playoffs not out of the question for them, I feel like.
I love Baker. Even I just if I lived in Tampa, I feel like it would be hard for me not to convert. Baker's just a guy I would want to play with, play for. So I feel horrible that he just lost, so much talent around him. But man, what a cool story. You got to root for a guy like that. No, he gets passed around. He remember that whole thing even however many couple years ago where he was getting tossed around to teams. Then he shows up the night before that Ram game and goes out and wins the Rams like a huge game for McVay, and then they don't even want to keep him. Like, look at what he's done for the Buccaneers. He's put them completely back on the map. If I had an NFC team that I'm rooting for nowadays, it's 100% the Bucks.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how things go next week. Dan, thanks for all the time. Really appreciate it. People want to follow you on social media. How can I do that?
Sure, DMart 207, and most of the time I'm tweeting at Jim Irsay to fire Chris Ballard
Or about golf.
or about golf occasionally.
All right, Dan, thanks for all the time. Really appreciate it.
See you, Mike.